The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Why don't we get started? My name is Deborah Stark. I'm your councilwoman for District 3. And we do a series of budget hearings throughout the city in the month of April. And I'm hosting 4 in our district. This one I'm probably especially fond of because I live 5 minutes away. So it's very convenient for me to be attending this one. So I think the way we start out is you get to see a film that gives you an overview of the budget. Plus, if you haven't gotten the brochure that highlights the budget, they're at the table with Stephanie. She's waving. So if you don't have that, please grab one of those. And well, why don't we start with that? And then hopefully Milton will be here in a few minutes. Thank you.
Your first look at the City of Phoenix 2017-18 trial budget. The City of Phoenix wants to hear from you. Your ideas can help shape the budget each year. The final budget provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money on key services you want and need, like police, fire, transit, city parks and swimming pools, libraries, youth and education, graffiti prevention, arts and culture, and help for seniors, and how they all could be impacted. The 2017-18 Phoenix City budget is balanced as required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, the city is preserving the services our residents value. Out of the $1.2 billion general fund budget, there is a small $1.9 million surplus. This video will present proposals on how to use these funds. So here's how the city's budget breaks down. There are 3 sources: the general fund, enterprise fund, and special revenue fund. Let's start with the general fund. 3/4 of the general fund is for police, fire, courts, with the remaining 25% going for everything else like libraries, parks, senior services, arts, and administrative and support functions. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds come mostly from dedicated taxes that must be used for a specific purpose. For example, the Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative, also called 3PI, or Transportation 2050. That funding goes for transit, light rail, and streets. Under the strong leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced. Phoenix employees strive every day to work smarter, save money, and serve our customers. That includes making sound financial decisions, like keeping our credit rating strong, spending within our means, and looking for savings to use for important community services. Now let's take a look at the recommendations for additions to the budget for next fiscal year. In the general fund, there is a little less than $2 million extra, plus some opportunities to use funds differently to add service. First, adding 16 civilian police assistants. They will take over some administrative duties, freeing up officers so the officers can respond to emergency calls.
So adding police assistance to our existing staffing resources is going to do a couple of things. It's going to get our first responders back on those priority calls for service faster and increase our service delivery to our community.
Next, focusing on homelessness in our city. The plan is to create more outreach teams by eliminating 6 vacant positions in the Human Services Department. This would free up about $500,000 to send teams of outreach workers to homeless residents on the street to connect them with services and a place for shelter.
These services are critical to the city. These professional outreach teams will work hand in hand with our community partners, neighborhoods, police, to bring these really important services to a very vulnerable population.
For the library, there are 2 recommendations. Contract savings would make security at Burton Bar Central Library permanent, and the other is to create more opportunities to engage kids in educational programs. Now, that leaves about 1/3 of the surplus untouched. So the proposed budget calls for strategically setting aside that funding, about $641,000, into a rainy day fund. The intent is to offset a potential deficit in the 2018-19 budget, which was projected in the city's 5-year forecast. Okay, time now to get back to the 2017-18 budget proposals. Let's look at the enterprise funds. These services are funded with user fees, with the exception of the Phoenix Convention Center. The budget calls for putting a new emergency operations center and ambulance at Sky Harbor International Airport. This would ensure that if anyone at the airport needs medical attention, they can get to the hospital quickly from Sky Harbor. Next, the solid waste funds pays for our trash collection and recycling services. It's proposed to add 8 positions to enhance worker safety and increase collections. Perhaps you've heard of the Reimagine Phoenix campaign? This is all part of support for the goal from mayor and council to divert 40% of what ends up in our landfills by the year 2020 through recycling, composting, and education. Okay, now to other restricted funds, which are dedicated to specific services. The Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative Fund comes from a 1/10 tax to support our world-renowned parks system. To support safe use of our parks and preserve system and public safety, the trial budget would add 22 new park rangers. This would extend trailhead hours and provide additional support at flatland parks around the city.
By adding rangers, we can extend the park hours at specific locations by 2 additional hours, which means that instead of hiking in the heat of the day, you can hike a little bit later. You can drive actually into the trailhead and continue your hiking later into the evening while it's still a little bit cooler.
13 of the new park rangers would be assigned to the city's more heavily visited locations, including North Mountain, Piestewa Peak, South Mountain, and other trailheads like Echo Canyon, Cholla, and Lookout Mountain. The other 9 would be assigned to flatland parks.
Additional rangers in our community and flatland parks provide that extra layer of customer service that we currently don't have, and it'll provide an opportunity for people to get education or learn more about what's going on in the parks, and just provide that extra layer of enhanced customer service.
Also included would be funding to maintain 2 new dog parks, one at Reach 11 and the other at Deer Valley Park. From the Transportation 2050 funds, the budget calls for expanding service on some of the busiest routes around the city. It would also increase weekday midday frequency on routes serving Thomas and Camelback roads. And from the Development Services Fund, the proposal is to add several positions to keep up with increased building permits and inspections due to economic growth. Also, to increase and enhance communication and continue our efforts to streamline processes. One last important update is on the hiring of more police officers and firefighters. The city is on target to meet its recruiting goals of 3,125 officers and 1,615 firefighters.
This budget that we're talking about now includes the addition of roughly 250 officers next year, getting us to our sustainable goal.
So it's important for us to keep the public safe and live within our means. In 2009, our public safety funds were significantly in a deficit. To avoid layoffs and to balance the budget, we stopped hiring. By 2015, we were back, and we've been hiring police officers and firefighters since then.
While we're down from our peak level of staffing in the police department, we're also significantly down in our calls for service to the department. Over the last few years, as population and calls for service have increased, we're also fortunate to return to hiring officers.
So we've been recruiting in-state for a long time, but now we have that extra effort to be able to go out-state to recruit. What an amazing opportunity to increase the number of people that we find and can look for to build our staffing here in the Phoenix Police Department.
It allows a safe, effective response to whatever emergency is happening in the city of Phoenix. So whether it's a heart attack, if it's a house fire, structure fire, if it's a mountain rescue, is that by having 4-person staffing, it ensures adequate, safe response to meet whatever needs we encounter.
Now keep in mind, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. So to recap, a few highlights. The 2017-18 trial budget calls for 16 new police assistants to free up sworn officers from administrative work, 22 park rangers, which would allow some trailheads to be open longer during the summer, and reutilizing city resources to to expand the city's homeless outreach.
Again, this is a balanced budget with some money set aside as a head start for future use.
17 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meeting or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, please call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for your interest in the City of Phoenix budget and being a part of the budget process.
Thank you. And so Milt is here, he's our assistant city manager, and we will, I think we're filming this, correct, tonight? So we can get all the comments on the record. And we have some people who want to speak. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Milton?
Has the interpreter been introduced?
Thank you. So the interpreter, thank you.
If you would introduce yourself.
And then I think you can come to this microphone too, anyone that wants to speak, but
good evening, my name is Ana Arballo. I will be your interpreter this evening, so if there's anybody here who needs Spanish into English or English into Spanish interpretation, please let me know. I'm in the back and I have the equipment to help you. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Ana Arballo, voy a ser su intérprete esta noche. Si necesitan ayuda interpretando del inglés al español o viceversa, estaré en la parte de atrás, por favor vengan a verme para ayudarles. Gracias.
Thank you. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. We do have a timekeeper who will be keeping time, and we'll get right to our speakers.
okay. The first speaker is Helena Haber. You can correct me if I mispronounce your name. Helena Haber. Okay, thank you. And you're going to do a musical interlude, I see. Okay, that'll be good.
Why does creativity matter? Why does culture matter?
Why do young people matter? We are the Youth Arts and Culture Council for the City of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture.
I am a storyteller. I am the future. I am a believer. I am art.
And I am Jesus.
We are young artists and arts advocates from all disciplines who advocate for access to arts and culture for young people in all communities of Phoenix. We believe in
Diversity,
community, democracy, conversation, opportunity. How do the arts serve me? The arts expand my horizons as a growing adult. The arts serve me by giving me a sense of purpose and community. How do I serve my community through the arts?
I encourage people to expand their local citizenship and have actionable value.
I create intensely beautiful conversations with people from all different backgrounds and philosophies. Why do the arts matter? The arts matter because of their incredible capacity to bring people together. My high school drama club, for instance, is like a second family to me, and it's been a major source of support throughout my high school experience. It's a place where kids from all different backgrounds and circumstances come together and put their talents towards the creation of something beautiful, not only through the productions that we put on together, but through the network of friendship and positivity that we share. I've seen firsthand how participation in arts programming can change lives for the better, and it's truly a beautiful thing.
Your investment in the arts will be returned. The benefits to the community are greater than dollars and cents.
The arts create a vibrant community, a more connected community. How are you serving the community, the arts, and young people? Thank you.
Thank you. been doing budget hearings for a long time, both as a city staffer and now as a councilwoman. You guys were amazing. You really made the night. Thank you so much for attending. So our next speaker is Lewis Howley. Come on up.
Well, that's a tough act to follow.
I know. We should have made them go last, maybe.
What is that about not following animals and children? Well, my name is Lewis Howley. I live at 7th Street in Northern, and I'm the president of the Friends of the Acacia Library. And I like to say that the Acacia Library is small but mighty in impact on its community. Our friends support the mission of the city and the library by providing funding for programs at the Acacia Library. This year, we're providing $6,700 in funding for programs at the library. And our most recent funding venture was to create a seed library at the Acacia Library. Now, customers can check out seeds, which they do not have to return, and from a variety, over 50 different kinds of vegetables, herbs, and fruit. And it's been a very big success. About 30 packets a day are being checked out. Teachers are checking them out for their students to grow. Children are asking their parents if they can check out seeds to grow something at home. Customers are showing pictures from their smartphones to library staff of the things they've grown. So it's been a true community venture. And I want to thank the city for providing the Acacia Library with an electronic display monitor, which now can advertise the programs at the Acacia Library. That's been a long time coming, so we're very grateful. And to close, I just would like to encourage the city to restore the library hours that were cut during the Great Recession, because every day, and the Acacia Library is closed, in particular on Sunday and Monday, and every day that that building is closed is the day that those resources inside cannot be used to help people find a job, go to a program, check out Seeds Now, whatever it may be. And thank you. I want to thank the city for their continued support of libraries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I went to the Library Volunteer Appreciation Luncheon on Saturday. There are hundreds of citizens that volunteer at our libraries and really help our libraries function, so thank you. Okay, our next speaker, Judy Giles. Judy, I see her smiling.
Ms. Stark, city staff, my name is Judy Giles, and I'm a resident of District 3. I'm president of Friends of Phoenix Public Art. We are a nonprofit organization which supports the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. And you saw one of our lovely groups. Love them. And specifically, we support the public art program through fundraising for maintenance and restoration of the public art, education about the public art program, and advocacy on behalf of the Office of Arts and Culture. I'd like to tell you about my favorite piece of public art. It's right here in District 3. It's in Moon Valley Park.
It's Grasshopper.
The Grasshopper Bridge is its name,
Yep.
and it was installed in 1997 across a wash that constantly floods during our monsoons, but because of the whimsical nature of the main structure, it has become a part of the play area for kids in the park. Of course, because of its heavy pedestrian and bicycle use and exposure to the elements, it must be constantly maintained, painted, and fixed. Speaking of maintenance, and because we're talking about the budget today, I want to thank you for last year's addition of $25,000 to the Office of Arts and Culture for public art maintenance. bringing the maintenance budget up from a low point several years ago of $29,000 to $75,000. But because the annual need for basic maintenance is $100,000, there are over 180 fixed pieces of public art in or adjacent to city public works, water, sewer, streets, transportation, and building projects. My ask today is that you again, this year, increase the budget by $25,000 to finally get the program to the basic amount of $100,000 yearly maintenance for all those projects. We have 1,000 pieces of portable art and those 180 pieces of fixed art adjacent to public projects. And also, we are supportive of the Arts and Culture Commission's request for additional grant dollars, which go to arts organizations in all 8 council districts. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it.
And we love that $25,000.
And I love that bridge. My kids used to play there growing up as well. So Craig Tripkin, former Councilman Craig Tripkin, is next. Welcome, and thank you for your service on the council when you were there. You did a lot of important things.
Thank you for your hard work. I know you're working very hard. Hi, my name is Craig Tripkin. I'm here representing Central Arizona Shelter Services, CAS, the largest homeless shelter in the state. We've been providing services for 30 years, and I'm here to speak to what I think is a significantly growing problem in the city of Phoenix, which is homelessness throughout our neighborhoods, throughout the city, and some of the answers. I applaud the outreach program that the city is doing. I will tell you that we've got a $200,000 budget deficit for next year, which is going to be very, very hard for us to absorb, and that includes a 30% fundraising increase, private fundraising increase, so we're leveraging that money. Secondly, we need to increase our client caseworker ratio. Right now it's 50 to 1. National standard is 30 to 1. And let me tell you why that's important. Is that as the city embarks on the outreach program, which I think is a good idea, we all know there's mental illness, physical illness, and a series of problems that the homeless people face and deal with, and these outreach workers are going to have to deal with. I've got absolute statistical proof that shows that the more casework that we can provide to people who are homeless, the shorter their length of stay is at Central Arizona Shelter Services. So we can, by providing more caseworkers, we can lower the length of stay and thus create beds so that the outreach program can have a place to put people. Otherwise, the outreach program will be stuck in a situation where they're frankly going to sort of blowing the leaves around from a Circle K to a Quick Stop to an oleander hedge. And that's not going to get homeless people out of our neighborhoods the way that I think people are going to want to do that. So I guess I'll conclude because I don't want to watch the microphone get picked up. But I'll conclude with that. We're running, like I say, a $200,000 deficit. It's going to take $200,000 for us to add the caseworkers, even get close to where we need. When and if the campus adds more beds, we're going to need to increase casework associated with that as well. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Craig. I'm having coffee actually with Craig next Monday to better understand some of the statistics he's sharing with us. So Sarah Laurent, I apologize, Sarah.
I wasn't speaking.
Oh. Okay. Oh, I can't read, obviously. I need to be in a library more. No, she was here to support library funding. Thank you. Jeff Sherman. Hi, Jeff.
I'm Jeff Sherman. I actually live in District 7 and work in District 3. I'm really here to advocate about our parks and some of our tree and shade plans and services. So I really am happy about seeing the extra rangers, especially in our neighborhood community parks. I love our nature preserves. but that is a luxury, whereas most of our neighborhood parks are just a severe normal quality of life issue. And so seeing that extra service there is going to help a lot. We are kind of, a lot of us, trying to boost the city's per dollar spending per resident on our neighborhood parks. Right now, I believe the City of Phoenix is somewhere around $79 per resident. Las Vegas is upwards of $135. So we're trying to push for some increased spending, especially in our existing neighborhood parks. I also want to advocate for the City of Phoenix has a plan on trying to get to 25% tree coverage by 2030. I believe the current capital improvement budget only advocates $50,000 a year towards that goal. We are never going to even come close to that goal, and that's another quality of life issue that pedestrians, anyone along the streets, our parks, we really need that shade, especially to kind of combat the heat island effect. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate you being here. Next speaker, Franklin Marino, there he is.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speak to the audience, if that's okay. My name is Franklin Marino, and I'm going to speak to you from three different perspectives. First and foremost, I'm a resident of the City of Phoenix. I actually live in District 2. My wife and I own a home. We pay taxes, and we vote. And one of the things, as a citizen of the 6th largest city in the country, I think that as a taxpayer, along with a lot of the rest of the people who live in Phoenix, we're not getting the services that we pay for. I'm a city employee. I'm a police officer, a 22-year veteran of the department, and for most of my career, I wore a uniform. I drove a patrol car as a first responder, answered one of these police radio. In other words, I was the guy who showed up at your home or business when you called 911 or needed the police in an emergency. I'm also secretary of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, the police union that represents your rank and file Phoenix police officers and detectives. And I know earlier in the presentation they talked how they're going to hire 16 police assistants that are going to be able to go out and help on calls. Well, here's the reality. The story you're not hearing is that 16 police assistants, when you divide them up amongst the 7 precincts, it comes out to 2 bodies per precinct. And depending on how they're going to put them on shifts, whether they're going to work together or whether they're going to work separately, it's really not going to add much to the manpower deficit that the Phoenix Police Department is facing. Because right now, depending on whose numbers you look at, we're down anywhere between 352 or 424 or somewhere between there in manpower and staffing, and that's department-wide. Patrol right now, even though we just moved a bunch of detectives out of investigative details, they're short-staffed. And we've been dealing with this because 6 years ago, the city decided they were going to balance the budget on the backs of public safety by not hiring police officers, even to keep up with the attrition. Because right now, 32 officers have to retire this year because they are in a mandatory program where they're done, they have to retire. So, like I said, citizens are getting shortchanged. 7-minute response time is average for an emergency call. That's a priority 1 call. When you call 911 because someone's kicking in your door, someone just broke into your car, someone is robbing your business, violent crime in progress, 7 minutes citywide. That's just an average. Depending on what part of the city you live in and how far and how thinly the officers are spread, that response time could be 15 minutes or as high as 21 minutes, and that's some officers that we've talked to out in the field. The unique thing about Phoenix is that we have 530 square miles of real estate to cover. That's a lot of geography, and it's separated by things like open desert, mountains, canals, a lot of man-made and natural objects. So we believe that to properly staff the police department, we need to be staffed at 2.5 officers per 1,000 citizens. That would give us a total of 4,000 sworn. I know they're talking about getting up to 3,125 by next year. Well, the problem with that is it's about 260 bodies short of where we were in 2008. Now, Phoenix is supposed to be this world-class city, and I'll finish up. We just hosted the Final Four, brought us to the national spotlight. A lot of development, a lot of things going on. Well, the only way that Phoenix is going to be a world-class city is when we have something other than the third world police department. So we need to staff the police department for our citizens and more, and also for our officers that are out there doing the heavy lifting every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Franklin. Our next speaker is Lynn Ling Lee. Welcome. Thank you. It's good to see you. Good to see you.
Hello everyone, I'm Lillian Lee. I'm the Commissioner of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture. First, I'm very proud to live in Councilwoman Deborah Stark's district. I also would like to say Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture under a great leader, Gail and Ashley Hale's leadership and doing a wonderful job. We are giving grants to neighborhood arts, public arts, festivals, also arts and learning partnership events, and more. I sincerely would like to thank City of Phoenix to increase $60,000 in funding for the arts and cultural grants programs last year. Any additional funding you can provide this year will allow us to award more grants to smaller, upcoming organizations and sustain the growth of our new neighborhood arts. Because I truly believe arts and culture are very important. They are the bridges to connect people together, to bring the beauty, peace, harmony, understanding, appreciation, and unity to our society. We need arts and culture. Even our great mayor, Mayor Sandin, encouraged to increase arts and culture budget to us. Thank you very much for your supporting arts and culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Appreciate you being here. Our next speaker, Ken Crane, President of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. Come on down, Ken.
Good evening. My name is Ken Crane. I'm an actively serving Phoenix police officer. About 28 years I served as president of Phoenix Law Enforcement Association. I won't be as loud as he was because I'm really short. So I'll try not to be too repetitious. While I talk, Frank, my partner, is going to give you some handouts on some staffing stats and numbers and issues. I'd like you to really take that home maybe the next few days and look at it. A couple of things I want to talk about. Frank touched on it, but first of all, the city of Phoenix is it's a big place, 530 square miles. We go from Anthem in the north to the Gila Indian Reservation in the south of Tukey. We go from Tolleson in the west to Tempe, Scottsdale city limits in the east. That's how big we are, okay? I want to give you some comparators. The city of San Francisco can fit inside the Maryville precinct with 25 square miles left over. Just inside Maryville precinct, we can fit the city of San Francisco. The community of Ahwatukee has a population of 70,000 that at any given time is policed by 3 cops. The city of Prescott has a population of 40,000 and is serviced by a 65-man police department. There's something wrong with that. It takes a police department helicopter, one of our helicopters at normal cruise speed, a full hour to fly the perimeter of the city. That's how big we are. We used to have 140 motorcycle cops in Phoenix. Now, 35 to 40. We used to have 60 property detectives in the city of Phoenix. Now, about 30. You guys pay for that on the back end with lack of service on case follow-up. Response times, Frank told you, average 7 minutes, but it takes a lot longer usually. We got guys reporting up to 20 minutes on emergency response to calls. You can call that an outlier, but when it's your family that suffers a 20-minute response, outlier doesn't mean anything anymore. The city says the goal is to get police staffing to a level of 3,125. That sounds good, it makes for a great media soundbite. But what they don't tell you is that's 260 fewer than we had in 2008. So in 9 years, has the city not grown? Has our population not expanded? Of course it has. Why do we think we can police with 260 fewer than we had in 2008? So what we really need, as my partner stated, is a staffing ratio of 2.5 per thousand. That would mean a police department of 4,000 officers. Where does that 2.5 number come from? Two places. There's an IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police study from 2003. It surveyed cities and said cities nationwide with populations of 250,000 or more staffed at an average of 2.5 officers per thousand. But that's kind of the dated study, it's 2003. So we did more current data and research on the 10 largest cities in the nation. Phoenix is number 6, by the way. We're right in the middle of that mix. 10 largest cities, based on 2010 census data and even more recent police staffing data, show the average is, guess what, 2.5 per thousand. We'll even play a game. We'll knock off the outliers. New York on the high end.
Your time is up.
Okay, and San Jose on the low end. And you're still at 2.5 per thousand. Okay, so that's a good average number. It's a reasonable number. I'd encourage you to look at the handouts. I would encourage you to contact your council person and your mayor and let them know that they need to find the funds to adequately staff the police department. You guys deserve better. Okay, you need to be safe. Our officers need to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Next speaker, Nancy Rink. Is Nancy here? Okay. I actually know Nancy, I don't see her, so, okay. And our last speaker, Anita Herrick.
Thank you.
Hi. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm Anita Herrick. I actually live in District 6, but I'm frequently at this building because I serve on the nonprofit board of Phoenix Mountain Preserve Council. And this is, North Mountain is one of the preserves that we are trying to keep in preservation status. What we've experienced over many years is that our parks and our preservations are very well loved, and our trails get loved to the point of needing to be repaired, and we need to make them safe for all of you and for all the visitors who come from all over the world. I want to applaud the budget people for adding 22 new rangers to our park system. Part of that is coming from the 3PI money, and we're very grateful for that. We're very grateful for the past support of the citizens of Phoenix, setting aside these preserved areas to stay preserved. And I'd just like to comment that our rangers are one of our frontline people. And we have visitors, like I said before, from all over the world. And many times the first interaction I have with a City of Phoenix official might be in one of our preserves, because they are certainly a draw, not just for those of us who live in this beautiful city, but for people who come to visit us. And I think that having our parks and our preserves, our mountains, in the best possible shape we can is a wonderful thing. And I would like to really encourage the City of Phoenix to continue to fund to the point of maintenance of all of our trails. And we have an issue with non-native plants entering our preserves. Buffalo grass is a huge problem. It has to be hand eradicated in order for it to be eradicated safely and effectively. If you are planting new plants in your yard or your landscape, I encourage you to plant native Sonoran plants only, and not those from other countries, because they do want to take over our wildlife, our wild plants, and they eat up the habitat. The other thing with buffalo grass, if you didn't know this, is it takes up the water from other native plants, and then it dries out and it becomes tinderbox. And if we have a lot of buffalo grass, we could lose our preserves in a wildfire very, very quickly. And that would be absolutely decimating to the City of Phoenix and to all the residents who live here. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. And that's all the speakers we have. Just to let everyone know, there's quite a lot of staff here, so if you have any particular questions, I think we have representatives from almost every department here. So if you want to stay a couple minutes and talk to individual staff, departments, please feel free to do that. Was there anyone else that wanted to say something? I can't believe you don't want to say anything, Richard. All right, well, I guess that concludes our budget hearing. Thank you so much for attending. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.